Hey, hello. Welcome to episode number 41 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choi. What's up? This week's something that I love is raw almonds. I like them in sliver form. I like them in sliced form. I like them as is. I put them on things and in things. Raw almonds. Anyway, if you're new here, this podcast is called People We Love. And what I do is interview people from all walks of life about their lives and careers, but I also ask them to highlight one person who inspired or influenced them. The conversations are casual, and living here in Los Angeles, I often interview people who work in the entertainment business, especially comedians. But I've also interviewed an ex-con, my grandma, and a former major league pitcher. So it really is all walks of life. And for more, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's peoplewelovepodcast.com. And the Instagram handle is People We Love Podcast. And remember to tap subscribe or follow on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. And of course, 5-star positive reviews on iTunes are greatly appreciated as well. So, today's guest is stand-up comedian and actor Michael Monsour. Originally from Chalk Mountain, Texas, Michael recalls the country ranch life and having to take care of the many animals his family raised. But he also always loved to perform, be it music in bands or acting in high school plays. Michael's journey led him to Austin, Texas, and into the stand-up comedy world, and eventually to Los Angeles. Along the way, though, one college friend has always been there for him, Jackson. Let's just get into it. Here's Michael Monsour. So it's good to see you today.
It's good to see you too, man. We live so close to each
Mr.
other.
Michael Monsour.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. This is the shortest drive I've ever had to do for a podcast. It took like 3 minutes. It was great.
How many podcasts have you done?
Oh man. I don't know. I'm about to do a little bit more. Like, I just did Eric Rocha's, which is Behind the Cork, and doing yours. And then I'm going to go do Alex Getlin's Thin the Herd. And I don't know. I probably only have done like a dozen or so.
That's a lot, dude.
I mean, I've been pursuing stand-up for 8.5 years. So like, you know, it's 8.5 years, a dozen.
That's true. But anyway. I guess, do you enjoy
I like it.
The long form podcast sort of conversations? Yeah. Is it sort of a nice break from stand up?
It's a nice break too, but it's also, man, this is a cool medium. I mean, all I listen to are podcasts. Like, I love listening. I was just listening to like Nikki Glaser on Rogan, or I pop into Pete Holmes's podcast every so often. I love Bert Kreischer's. I love what Bert and Tom Segura do on Two Bears, One Cave. It's just like, and then, you know, I'll have like Bill Nye and I guess,
there's something
Neil deGrasse Tyson's other. Yeah,
there's something for everyone.
Yeah, there's a lot of great ones. So I think it's been fun, especially like you said, like I get to hang out with Eric for an hour, and it was dope. And I was like, oh man, I need to hang with this dude more often, you know. And it's just a nice. So I've been liking it.
Have you ever thought about doing your own?
Man, I thought a bunch, but just like
the time, the effort, the energy, you're focused on other things.
But also it's just, yeah, that's it, man. I mean, I think it'd be fun. I had an idea, which if it's good enough, it'll probably get stolen or has already been done, but it was called 5 Minute Podcast, where if you did like a show, or I run a monthly show, and so I normally have like some neat people on, and I was like, man, if I could do a 5 minute podcast, like I could get like dope guests, you know what I mean? Because 5 minutes, you're at a show. It's like, hey man, I brought my recorder.
Yeah.
Into kind of but then it's just like, you know, and I talked myself out of it because I'm like, oh, I'm like running this show. I don't want them to feel
too much of an ask. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also you're right. It takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of So, you know, I think what my goal is to kind of grow myself as more in the comedy or acting realm, and then when I have a bit more of a solid fan base, like, okay, let's like, now I've been doing these. I've been listening to them, and then maybe that would be the right time.
Yeah, I got you.
But,
Well, why
but
don't you
I like hanging out anyway.
Yeah, well, why don't we get into it? Why don't you tell me about where you grew up and your life story? And
My life
start
story.
from, like I tell everyone, start from the hospital leaving.
Okay.
Were you born in a hospital?
Yeah, I was born in a hospital. It's crazy.
I don't judge.
Good. No, what's crazy is I was born actually. So I grew up most of my life in Texas. I grew up in Chalk Mountain, Texas.
Where's that near?
Chalk Mountain is like literally where my parents live, where our ranch is at. It's still dirt roads. So it's like old school. Like, I mean, everyone has plumbing, you know what I mean? But it's in the boonies.
What's the nearest major city?
Major city would be Fort Worth, which is an hour and 35 minutes southwest.
Okay, that's not too
It's not too
far.
bad. Well, I had to drive for high school. I went to Granbury, and I had to drive half an hour there and back. Like that's how far all the schools were.
That's
like,
terrible.
Crazy, right?
That would have made me miserable. I didn't like going to school when it was
You
close.
know what though? It made me fall in love with music because I just would just blast in a Blink-182 album or Taking Back Sunday. I was a big emo pop punk kid.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom, she would make these amazing lattes. Still to this day, man, I don't care where I go. For some reason, just my mom's coffee mix was just always so good. So I still remember like having the thermos, putting in like the My Chemical Romance record, and just driving to school as like the sun was starting to come up because you had to wake up early because, you know, you fucking got to be at school at like 7:30. And it's funny how like, you know, I smoke this vape because I'm cool now.
Yeah.
And how like a cigarette and coffee, I know I was 18, you know, and I still was a very mild smoker, but like it makes me think of those drives in the morning to my senior year at Granbury High School, which was, I mean, dude, I was born not in Texas, which will always be a regret for me. I love where I was born. I was born in Pennsylvania, around the area where all my mom and dad's family grew up. But we moved to Texas when I was 1, lived in Sugarland, so in Houston, until I was like 5. And then we moved to the ranch, and that became like my home, my everything. We had, you know, I don't know, and I hope I'm not fucking it up too much, but like 90 acres, something like that.
This is a big ranch.
A big ranch.
How many people were in your graduating high
So this
school
is the
class?
thing. So first I went to a school that was called, this is real, called Three-Way.
Okay.
Let's go through it. Hilarious.
Yeah.
Which
when
was,
do I enroll?
you know, my 3rd grade class had 4 people. I think it was Colton, Tiffany, David, and me. Yep. And we shared a trailer with the 4th grade class. So classes would both be teaching at the same time, but you'd be on the opposite side of the trailer. And
this is when you were in high school?
no, this is when I was in grade school.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm going to get to, so like grade school, super small. Then I go to Hico, which is a town about 25 minutes from where I grew up, 1,200 people in the town, right? And this town, to give you an idea, still to this day in this town square, they have a statue of Billy the Kid shooting his guns.
Yeah.
Because Brushy Bill admitted he was Billy the Kid at the end of his life. So like, oh, this is where Billy the Kid. So I went to that, and that graduating class, because I left when I was a freshman in high school. My brother David graduated because I wanted to do more art. And so we went to Granbury, but that graduating class would have been, 80 max.
Yeah, small.
So when I transferred sophomore year, when I was, to loop us back to the story of the coffee and the cigarette, the
Yeah,
My Chemical
sure.
Romance, is I transferred to this school my sophomore year, and my mom was such a proponent because she knew I loved theater. She knew I was like outgoing. Dude, and I was always bad at sports, but this school I went to was just small town Texas, dude. That's how you made friends. Look who just texted me. I'm really close with my mom. Hey, checking in, all okay?
Oh,
she
man.
knows I'm emotional right now.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
She's great. But when she was like, you need to go to this school, it has like, they had a real theater. Our theater was in the middle school's cafeteria in Hico. So like that graduating class was a few hundred, but that school 10 through 12 was like 1,000 kids. Like I faked an Irish Australian accent, whatever it was. I was calling myself Matey Flynn, because I didn't know how to adapt because my entire life has been in these small towns.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, you said you went to the school where they had a theater program, and your mom kind of helped you get into that school, correct?
So it was a public school, but she was like, you should go to this school because they have a theater program.
And is that how you were able to fit in? Because you said you weren't into sports, but...
So I would try to do sports, but I would be bad at it. But I loved one-act plays. Yeah. I loved theater. And when I was even going to school in Heiko, I was doing plays at the Granbury Opera House. So they were taking me out of school to go do these plays that like people paid like, $20 a ticket or whatever. And
wow,
she knew that was a whole nother thing. I had a coach. I think I talked about this on Eric's podcast, Coach Cheesy.
A theater coach?
No, he was a fucking
quarterback coach.
Dude, football coach. And it's all good. What are you going to do? You live and you learn. But I remember him being like, you can't be a football player and an actor.
That's fucked up.
Man, it was the early 2000s. What are you going to do? But that's what I think you suffer sometimes from smaller towns. There's no ignorance to it. I love where I grew up, man. Like, I fucking grew up in small town county, Texas. Like, I loved it. It helped shape, like, my family being how close we are to each other and know what friendships mean and also know what it means to, like, have a dream and want to fucking pursue it because I had a lot of friends who just never left.
Yeah, tell me about life on the ranch and how did you get into theater?
Yeah, and all that stuff.
Yeah. How did you get into
So life on the ranch was, it was me, my brother David, and then Howard, who was the oldest, and then my mom and dad. And my dad was a physician and worked at these hospitals before he opened up his own practice. My mom helped like run it. She was always in healthcare administration. But she like left everything to be a mom when we moved to the ranch. And then like, probably 8 years in when we start becoming teenagers, she starts to go and help run my dad's practice. But she like changed her whole life just to like let us live on this place.
Did you have animals there or like farm?
Yeah,
we had crops? What is going on there?
We had I think at most like 25 to 50 heads of Black Angus cattle. We had a few horses. One time we had 2 pigs, a rooster. It was a ranch, And
what these are pets, or you eat them, or they reproduce for you, and you sell eggs?
The
or
cows was beef.
The cows became beef. For you guys or
for us and other people, so you'd sell them in the market. Yeah. So it'd be like other ranchers or other people who like it's basically everyone pitch in for the cows, and then they're on our ranch grazing. We feed them. We make sure they're taken care of.
Can you tell which ones taste the best just by looking at them while they're walking around?
No, man. And also, like, we did a lot with the cows and shit. Dude, growing up, like, you wouldn't think of it, but, like, I remember having to separate the cows and watch out for the bull. I remember painting and aciding our arena. We had a horse arena area where they rode the horses, but also you could, do like trail rides and stuff around the ranch, and baled hay in the summers, man. Like, cause we had a hay barn. So we'd have to bring in like fucking, 50, 60 bales of hay. And so you have to go in the fields and put them on the truck. And then you'd have to go back.
Was this something that, it sounds like I would be guessing that this is something you and your brothers did a lot of.
Did.
Cause your dad's a doctor and your mom's working too. So when do you take care of a 90 acre ranch?
No, but my dad made it work, man. It's crazy. The older I got, the more I'm like, this fucking guy would spend all this time in the hospital. And then when he had his days off, because he always wanted to have a ranch in Texas or something like that. He was big John Wayne, big Clint Eastwood, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But there was a time where my mom was working all the time when we lived in Houston, and my dad was working all the time, and we had like a nanny, and like they just weren't ever around, and we were like young kids, and they both got together and were just like, I don't want to miss my kids growing up. And so my mom just threw down her career. She has like a master's degree and was like top notch at her field. My dad was like a part of this huge hospital in Houston doing liver like transplant stuff, like crazy shit. And they just threw it on the ground and found this small hospital area in Texas. Like I think it started off in Stephenville and then went to Granbury.
I see.
And they were just like, we got to be there and we got to do this, or we're going to end up just having suburban kids we never see. And then, so we went there, and like my dad made time. So he like during the summers, we would be painting and we would be managing animals, and like obviously he'd be helping. But when we baled hay, you know, like he was there. Like my dad ran the tractor. He'd fucking like treat people in the hospital, come home, you know, throw on jeans, and then we'd have to move the cows to a different field. You know what I mean? And that's just like, you know, and
that's life. Ranch life.
That's life. But that's like what he wanted, and that's like the life we got to get. And at the time, you're just like, oh my God, we're an hour from a mall. Like we were so distant from what he gave us. And then now that we're older and we're like, dude, I'm so close with every one of my family members.
I see. So that was sort of the trade-off, I guess. You were away from not big, I guess, big city life, but more, you know, more people, but you got to be closer with your family. With your family.
And now they're, you know, they're so close and amazing. And so we would do all these things on the ranch and mow and all this stuff, man. And that was ranch life. We had a pond before we built a pool. So like we had a pond with fish and fucking turtles, and it was dug in the ground, and we swam in it. We had like a dock you jumped off of. Like we grew up in the country.
Did anyone in your family, your brothers, I guess you were your brothers, ever like resist and be like, I don't want to do this branch work. I don't want to do this. Not today. Fuck this shit, dude, Dad. Leave me alone.
My brother Howard is so much different now, but he was like the rebel. But he always got the ranch work done. And so do you know what? We wouldn't think twice, because it's like, what are you going to do? We live here. Like, this is a big piece of land, and there's 3 young men who can, like, no, if you don't go out and feed the horses and you miss them and they get hungry, you're grounded. Like, it's just like a normal suburban life, except it's like
your chores change.
Those are your chores, Instead of taking out the trash, I gotta go and make sure the feeders are full, or I gotta clean the dog kennels, because we had these outside and inside, but we had these dog kennels for these amazing dogs we grew up with that were like bird hunting dogs. And, you know, I got to clean all the shit and clean off. And we had to clean horse shit all the time. You know, it was like once a month you had to clean the stalls, is what we called it.
What was the most challenging aspect, I guess?
Of that?
Not of cleaning horse shit se, but
of living out in the country?
Yes.
Yeah, dude, getting your friends to want to come over.
Because they have to
drive half an hour, and they got to drive on a dirt road. Yeah. Some parents didn't like that, but then
that sucks.
We made our house, like my brother Howard got into playing music, and then my brother, and then me, and so
became a destination.
It became a place like, come jam, come do this, and then, dude, it's crazy, man. So when I'm talking about all this stuff, this is our adolescence. So once we all started growing up, my brother was 5 years older. David is 3 to 4 years older. And so
you're the youngest of three.
And when we started becoming teenagers, like our other best friend, Robbie, who's still close to us to this day, he had an adjacent ranch down the road, and he would throw barn parties where we'd all come bring our instruments. Everyone would start jamming out. We had a fucking mini ramp half pipe right by his house that was not far off from his hay barn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
for skateboarding?
Skateboarding, we fucking skated, we jammed. We didn't bicycle, but we had like parties out there. And so when we got into be teenagers and could drive, we're like, oh, this is now. But the hard part was your adolescence, because, man, you had to drive 25 minutes to go to a movie. You had to go, to get out of nowhere. It took half an hour, and you'd have to convince mom and dad to take you.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And not just that, but drop us off. I remember there was a roller rink in Stephenville, and we would go because, we'd fucking try to listen to Limp Bizkit,
and
just
somewhere to go,
kids. And like they'd have to drop you off and 2 hours later come back. Not until you get older, you're like, oh my God, of course it was tough for our parents. You drive half an hour, and then in 30 more minutes you have to drive back to go pick them up.
What did they do? Did they go all the way home and then come back?
I mean, sometimes my mom, who's just the kindest person in the world, she
waited
would
outside.
Yeah, right? No, she would go and do like, she'd be like, okay, cool. Saturday, the kids are going to go to the roller rink.
Plan around it.
I'm going to make sure not get groceries or anything, because she was a homemaker for so fucking long. And so she was like, all right, feeding a family of 5, that could be an hour and a half at the grocery store. Then I can get like, drop dry cleaning off or whatever. So she would kind of like have her errands to do.
Yeah, that takes a lot of timing and planning when you have 3 kids and then everything's far away.
Dude, everything's far away.
Everyone's on their own schedules, I'm sure.
So that was the tough part of the adolescence, was getting friends over and going anywhere. And then when we got older, we all made it our own, and it became like, I look back on it now and I'm just like, what a fucking paradise, and different than so many other people. Like,
and you like that. You wouldn't have traded it for anything.
No way, man. We would have these barn parties at Robbie's. Someone would bring a keg. And it wasn't even just about drinking. It was just like, we'd all plug our amps
in. The camaraderie and the music.
It was unbelievable.
So what about theater and performing? So music part, did that kind of lead into that?
So it was always, I remember like doing plays and stuff in middle school, and then in high school really getting into it. And my cousin Michael did a feature film. He was living out in LA. And so my school, when I was in 9th grade, is when I fell in love with acting. I remember I had to take an extra week off after spring break. My mom had to sit down with my principal, who's of course like, his son was my brother's best friend, because it's a small town.
Yeah, everyone knows everyone.
And so my mom was like, my husband's godson, because he was my uncle's kid, so their nephew,
sure,
is shooting this movie in LA. He wants Michael to fly down and do a small part, but he wants him to be there. And it was unbelievable, dude, because I was in this small town Heiko, flew to LA, my cousin, and he'll even say it.
Is the first time you've been in LA?
First time I was in LA. I was like 14, 15. Dude, his movie was not good. And I'm sorry, Michael, but we joke about it all the time. But check this out.
Did you know that when you first got to set?
No. We had no idea.
Okay.
But it's how I became friends with Polly Perrette, who was all those seasons on NCIS, the punk, person. And did that show for like fucking 15 years. A staple on it. I think his name was Red Man Fu, the Afro guy from LMFAO. He was in it. Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite. Napoleon Dynamite just came out and they got Pedro. I remember I couldn't meet him and I was really bummed, so they called him up on the cell phone.
Efren Ramirez.
Efren, yeah, and he was awesome. He did quotes for me, and I was a kid and I'm on set and I'm being an extra. Or I have
that
one
would blow
line
my mind if that ever happened to me,
dude. And that was a fucking like a year maybe after Napoleon Dynamite, so it was big. I remember. He goes, do you want me to say anything? Can you say bake or a cake or something? And he said it on the phone, and I was like, this is the greatest day of my life.
That'd be on my list. That'd be up there for me too.
Randall Park was in it, who was Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Another guy, I forget his name, was in it. And so this was an
awesome cast.
Awesome. And it's before all of that shit. You know what I mean? Besides Efren.
Yeah.
But I fucking came here and I saw my cousin and I was like, this is awesome. And so when I got back, I just started doing more plays at the Granbury Opera House.
You knew that you wanted to act.
I wanted to do it, man. So we did our 1-act play that year. It was, I knew I loved acting because in our 1-act play, it was The Insanity of Mary Gerard. I'll never forget it. Because I played one of the demons and I had to be this dark, weird figure. But I remember when they were putting on the play for the whole high school, which my brother was a senior, star athlete, football, basketball, all-state golf, like just amazing.
Yeah.
And then there's me, who was always the goofy kid making jokes and doing these plays. and I had not tights. What is it? The fucking
yoga pants?
Not yoga pants. What is it? Like the
Shorts.
Nets, like netting,
Nets?
Fishnet stockings,
Yeah.
dude. I had fishnet stockings on, crazy hair, and I was this demon.
And you had long hair back then too?
They let me keep it a little longer, but it wasn't as long as this. Not until I went to Granbury.
Right now, it's what you just say. It's probably past shoulder length.
Past shoulder for sure.
Yeah.
And I remember doing the play, and before the curtains opened, I was like, I'm about to do a play in front of everybody with fishnet stockings. And then when the play was done, and we ended up winning a bunch of awards, which was another motivator, because when you're a kid, I was so bad at sports. I never won anything. I never did anything. And then all of a sudden, I get these medals for like doing this thing I like. But I remember getting done.
That's awesome.
It was amazing. And I remember getting done with the play, and I was like, okay, time to see my brother and all of his friends, because he's the man. He was the guy. He was the dude. And they all were like, that was great. They were like, that was good. And I was like, even the fishnet stockings, they're like, after a while, we didn't even think. It was unbelievable, man.
Your performance sounds like it was transcending.
So, when you're 15 wearing fishnet. But yeah, man. And I think that's where I was like, oh, fuck, I really like this. And then at the same time, I started learning guitar. And so it was always acting and music. And then everyone in our town started just learning instruments like it's a fucking Disney movie. Like, it's like, yeah, man, I started picking up the banjo. Oh, cool. Did you hear he's really good at drums. And it's like, oh shit, Roy Halliburton, legendary bass player. Like we had.
Is this all people in high school or just people in town?
All people in town, in Heiko. Bro, Lewis, unbelievable.
What are
drums.
the ages of these people?
So we're talking about, man, and I really should write this. It's crazy because
they'd all come to the barn parties.
Oh, they would all come to the barn parties. So you had fucking, and I'm gonna not say anymore.
Can I visit your teenage years?
I'd come back.
Yeah,
but I mean, like, even just the thing is like, now everyone's older, so everyone's out and about doing their own thing. But yeah, so like you had Lewis. Lewis was so good at the drums, like, and he had a little mini shed studio because his dad worked at I'm also watching myself because it's such a small town. His dad worked at like a place there was only one of. So like did well, right?
Yeah.
And so he had like all this awesome shit all the time. Like they always had like the best drums or the best little or cool guitars. And then Roy, who was a part of their family and still even they like one of their parents like married the other and then they divorced. But so Roy, that's how Roy came in, and Roy was like, dude, he was my age. He was probably 14, 15. We probably met when we were 13 playing baseball. Roy was a prodigy at the bass. This kid would pick it up and he would start doing like flea solos. And so you had Lewis rocking drums, Roy playing bass. You had Robbie playing the guitar, and he sang. It was very, very Bush, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But he was great. And then my brother got into bass, and then I got in guitar and was trying to sing. And then David a little later got into drums. And then so that was a group of us, and we were like from 15 or from 14 to like 17. And we were all rocking out. And then when we started getting older and like me and Roy were like 18, everyone was like 21, 22, 23. And then that's when all the parties started happening. They had them when they were a senior in high school. So like, but I was like 15, 16. My mom would take me to the after prom fucking party, and then once it started getting a little wild, she was like, we gotta go. And so like I never got to enjoy. But then when I got older, we would throw these barn parties at Robbie's ranch, man. And there was a kid, and I know his last name, so I don't want to say it, but I don't know why I'm blanking. He was this country kid, man. And I remember growing up, I always thought he didn't like us because, we had, in these small towns you grow up in, my dad and then my mom, when she started working with him, they did well. And it was always a catch-22, dude, because the towns we lived in, man, like I saw like, and I didn't know at the time, but like, I fucking slept in rooms this big, and that was a room for 5 people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there were like real poor people.
Yeah.
And so I remember growing up, we always had a little bit of people giving us a hard time. And you look back now and it's like, they just were having a tough life, and they saw our house down the road. Everyone would hear about it. It's the house on the hill, and they've got all this land, and they're fucking, dad's a doctor, you know? And it's not woe is me, but it definitely was something that played a factor in me living in a small town. But this kid, I never thought he liked us. And then when we got older, he started playing guitar, and he sang the most beautiful country songs. And then we started getting to know him, and he had a little brother who was a year younger than me. And this guy was just such an amazing musician and amazing artist. The younger brother? No, the older brother.
Yeah.
And I started getting to know his younger brother, which was fine. But he ran this ranch, man. He was a ranch guy, the F-350, but like Stinson jeans, but like fucking could fix a diesel engine. You know what I mean? And I remember one of the barn parties, he got out the acoustic guitar and he started playing it, and we all started jamming. And it was just like, dude, everyone in that barn stopped and just like watched this guy. And I remember being like knowing it's something special. And then just a few, not even probably a lot, a few years later, he ended up passing away in an accident. And it's so funny because I've not thought about that feeling. And I remember that feeling because I remember when hearing him, or when we would have a good jam or whatever. But I remember specifically everyone stopping and watching him. And this guy would work from sun up to sundown doing fucking intense ranch work. But he had this art inside him. And we're in a barn fucking 30 miles from the closest town. And I remember when I felt that, I was like, oh, this is what this thing can do to you. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you do. This guy just made, 50 people in a barn who were doing, maybe talking to friends or watching the music. He made everybody stop and like, everybody was moved at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's like, this happened in a barn in the middle of nowhere in Texas. So that's where I was like, yeah, I like this art thing.
Was that the first time everyone had really heard him play guitar and sing?
You know what? It was for me. I think a few people knew he did it and he sang it some different, because, it's
kind of like his coming out party in a sense.
Well, for me, maybe music wise, I just remember I didn't know that was in him.
Yeah.
And that was something I'll never forget, because it's like, man, art and this beautiful thing can be in anybody.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Good story. Good story.
Now, I've never told anyone that.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. He was a really good guy. It's really a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened after high school? Where do we go from there?
High school, we went to South Plains College because my brother went to music school there. It was also a feeder school into Texas Tech. It's also a very, very methy town.
So this was a methy town in Texas,
in West Texas near Lubbock.
A small
town, 30 miles from Lubbock. I lived there for a semester. I was taking music classes and basic college classes.
So it's not
specifically music, but they had a great music program.
Okay.
Like I think like one of the Dixie Chicks went there, Wailing Jennings supposedly or something. But they had like studios and shit. They had like real shit. And I was like, I think I want to major in music. I want to be in a band. So I was like in bands at the end of high school. I was doing my own thing. Like I spent so much time on MySpace building like whatever.
So it sounds like music. Was it more music was your thing more than theater at that point?
So once I graduated high school, I was like, I remember my mom was like, you're so good at this thing. Like, I think you should try to go.
Referring to theater
and acting. Yeah. And I was just like, I want to be the next Blink-182. Like, because I had like small town angst in me too, where it's like, man, I lived in this area my whole life. I want to get I don't even care if it's West Texas. Just like, get me out of here. Like, I need to go.
Yeah, even though you loved it, you knew that it was time.
I knew it was time to go, and I loved music. I loved writing. So I was into it. And I remember when I moved to Levelland, I was like, okay, you're going to do music. and you're going to put acting off for a year or two, and you're going to, because there's no acting in West Texas, it doesn't even fucking matter.
Yeah.
And, I went to this school for a year, lived with my brother Howard, who at that same time was getting out of jail, for another DUI, and it was a huge deal to our family, and he was in a halfway house, man. My first semester in college, most weekends, not every weekend, and it calmed down, but like I would go and pick up my brother from this halfway house, take him to AA meetings, and he would come over and we would just hang out. And, it would be hard to take him back because he just like, he fucking was lost and he didn't know what he was doing. And, but like we ended up living together the next semester. He's now 10 years sober, by the way, married, is a therapist, got his master's.
That's awesome.
It's crazy. And, so then I lived in Lubbock that semester. We were he became in my band. We're playing, trying to play shows. And, I remember I was in a classical jazz guitar 2 class. And I remember it was at 8 a.m. and it was December. It was towards the end of the semester. And it was so cold. It was snowing. And my brother had a class at the same time, thank God. So we were just like, at least we fucking are doing this together. So we would drive.
Is this a part of Texas where it snows?
West Texas, it snows. West Texas snows during the winter. And I remember being in the jazz class, and I'm like, wow, I'm starting to get these riffs. I can really play these things. And I remember being like, asking my guitar teacher a question. It was a one-on-one session. And I was like, I don't know if I want a music degree, but I don't know if it's a good idea. And he was like, do you think your band's going to make it?
Yeah.
And I go, I don't think so. And he goes, do you want to teach guitar? And I said, no. And he goes, go.
But what about starting a different band or a solo career
or
another instrument?
He was honest, and it was beautiful, dude, because then that spring, we visited Robbie, the guitar player, the Bush singer, at Texas State University in San Marcos, and I fell in love with San Marcos, and I fell in love with Austin, Texas, and my brother started building more of his sobriety, and he was like, getting a year in and really getting into AA and going back to Texas Tech and earning his bachelor's, and he had to redo everything, and he was getting healthier, and I could go. And it's not that he would ask me or anything. I just, I didn't want to leave my brother behind, even though he's the oldest. I see. Yeah. And so it was perfect. This guy was like, get out of here. And in my head, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I don't want to live in Lubbock. I didn't want to live there. It was like being back in my small town.
Yeah.
And then I fell in love with San Marcos and ended up transferring there and lived in Austin and San Marcos. And it's how where I found stand-up. It's where I fell in love back with acting, and how all of any kind of opportunities I've ever had was because I moved.
Yeah. Well, tell me about what happened there. How did you discover stand-up?
So stand-up, dude, I like this podcast so much. I've never told anyone any of this shit.
No? I figured this is what you talk about on other podcasts.
No. Well, no one's asked these questions. So, hit my vape.
What was it like when you got into stand-up, and how did you get into stand-up? Those are not that deep. And
no, I guess just like on other podcasts, we just end up probably chit-chatting about other shit. Yeah. But so I've told this before. So very funny. So when I transferred Texas State University, at the time, you had to live in a dorm for 2 years, right? And when I was transferring, all their dorms were filled up. So the only thing that they were starting to shove students into, and now it's huge. I think it's like 25,000 students now. But at that time, they had this old like apartment complex. Like it's a nice, right by campus, but off campus enough, like half a mile, that they used to use for athletes. And so they started putting older class people in there. And I moved in with this kid.
Were you a junior at this
point?
No.
So I was transferring as a sophomore, but because I took a lot of music classes, it was like freshman, sophomore.
Yeah.
So like it took me, and that was the nice thing too. When I got to Levelland, for South Plains, my parents did this thing called Texas Tomorrow Fund, where they saved for 4 years of any Texas college, they would match you. So when I went to that school, since it was like a music school but also community college, they were like, oh, we're gonna pay out of pocket, because it was like super cheap.
Yeah.
So my parents were like, take philosophy, take astrology, take whatever the fuck you want, because this just figure it out. And that's a blessing too.
Yeah.
And so I had like not all the courses matched up. Mm-hmm. Anyway, and so I moved into this apartment. I remember I was like 19 or 20, definitely underage of buying booze. And I moved into this kid who was 21. He was a senior, English major, introvert. And we just like meshed well, because I was actually in a town I wanted to be in. I was actually near Austin fucking Texas, where I could go see any kind of music I wanted anytime. And this guy spent his 4 years in college not doing anything. And so I remember I like made friends right away, started a band right away, and just was like, come. And just he would come along, and then he would do his own thing. But I remember that was something that was nice, is like, because I just left an older brother.
Yeah.
Who had all these things. So I was like, yo, dude, here's my wing. Get under it. Let's go.
Yeah, I need a brother. Do you want to be my brother?
Yeah. And I remember coming home one day.
It's funny.
Very. I remember coming home one day and he was drunk, right? It was like fucking 6:30. I was like, what is going on? And he goes, all right, I've always wanted to try stand up, and I got my notes. I know of an open mic. It's happening in 30 minutes, and I'm psyching myself up. And then he like grabs another shot of vodka. Not anything different.
What's up?
Only when not anything different from any college kid,
sure.
But like definitely when he got nervous like this, he probably had 4 shots of vodka. You know what I mean? Who knows how much he ate?
Yeah.
And he like took another shot, so maybe it was 5. And he was just like, I'm going to go. And, this is before Lyft and Uber. And I was just like, okay, so I'm going to fucking drive you. I was like, you're not going to take your car. That's stupid. We didn't have cabs in San Marcos.
Yeah, he's not thinking ahead.
No, he's just so nervous. So I was like, cool, man. Hey, let's do it. I was like, I for a year was writing out jokes. I wanted to also try stand up year before that.
Have you talked?
I talked to him about. I was like, dude, like I've been writing a bunch of stuff. I never even been to an open mic.
You guys are both secretly writing stand up.
And so I go and take him. It was at a place that ended up being called The Vault later on, which I ran shows at, but. I went into this room and it's what you think of an open mic, dude. I saw like 8 people in a row bomb and eat total shit. And then he got up there and he did pretty good.
That's funny.
It was amazing. And then another guy got up there and did really good. And then so I saw, oh, this is what it's like a majority at mics, like maybe they don't do good, whatever, but it's different.
You'll see the glimpses of talent.
And I remember going home and he was so happy, and he ended up like doing it maybe one other time.
How come you didn't go up there that night?
Because I was no way.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch.
Yeah, fair enough.
Then I remember a week or 2 went by and I was drinking with some friends, and I remember I was like, I'm going to fucking do it. And they were like, you got to fucking do it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do it. And they were like, let's go. And we went to another venue. It was like the same guy ran these open mics, and I went up there and did it, and it just went well.
Had you been practicing up to this point?
I fucking had like what I think I would do, because I found out it's like, oh, you got to do a few minutes. You got to do at least 4 minutes, So I've like,
notes,
3-4 pages of jokes, And I also riffed, you're an open mic, and and it worked. And then I just got hooked.
The rest is history.
That's it. And I ran so many shows in that town. It's crazy, dude, because when I transferred in there, I never even lived in a city that big. You know what I mean? Like, even though it was a college town, Austin, Texas, you gotta understand, I was taking summer classes at ACC before going to my college at Texas State. I went to ACC Rio Grande, Austin Community College, dude, I didn't know what a parking meter was.
Yeah.
It's real. Like, I knew what it was.
Yeah.
I had to call my mom and be like, I need more money for parking because I keep putting all the quarters in. And she's like, it stops after a while. You have to see the sign. Like, I didn't know. San Marcos and Austin helped me become who I was. By the end of my college, dude, I was running like 3 or 4 different shows. I was getting paid to help do promo on a big theater that had like Cold War kids, Modest Yahoo. Like, I could walk around the square and I'd know everybody, and we'd throw these stand-up music shows.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so it was just like, yeah, that comedy night, that open mic led into how I like just became a person.
Yeah. And what about, you had a close friend in college, I believe.
Yeah. So we're still close to this day. His name's Jackson. He's amazing, man. I got super lucky. I got amazing friends here in LA, but Jackson has been someone who I met in college. We were in a band together. He played djembe, and I played electric acoustic guitar and sang and ran all the beats out of my computer, and Mark played bass. And we stayed friends since till today. And, and he's someone, man, I can call if just the world feels like it's falling down and I don't know what to do. Recently, because I've been going through some emotions, I've talked to him while I cried on the phone, multiple times recently, and just, dude, he's just like amazing. He's just like, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna get through this thing. And, I'm lucky that I met him in college, because I'm lucky to have a friend like that. And I've been there for him. I've been there when he's been crying on the phone. And same thing, man. It's just like, you're gonna get through it. And I think we need that. Like,
yeah, I think everybody needs that.
And be that person.
Needs to hear that.
Yeah, that's the thing, dude. If you're listening to this right now, dude, be that guy or gal. Like, do it. Like, be that friend, man. Because there's dark times in both of our lives, and, we helped each other, like, keep breathing. So.
You know what's funny? I was once told this advice by someone, and it sounds like such a cliche, and it seems like not helpful at all. And all this person told me was, hang in there. That's all that someone told me was, hang in there. And I was like, what the hell kind of advice is that? But then I started
Let me
doing
tell you
it.
something, man. And
I started doing it.
I'll say this forever. Pat someone on the back. If you like someone's work or art, tell them, and tell your friends to hang in there, because you don't know that one fucking hang in there could be the reason why they keep going. And a year or 2 years later, they're so much further than they ever thought, and they would have quit. Be there and tell people to keep going, Yeah. If you really believe it. Like, if you see someone and you're like, oh, man. It's like, well.
If you care about the person,
If you care about them.
If you care, say it. You don't have to believe
Yeah,
it.
but if you do see somebody that's you see someone that's your friend that's doing something that you see something in, like, fucking tell them, man, because not enough people do. And it really does go a long way. I've gotten messages from people when they've seen stuff or whatever, and it's like, I don't know if they realize, like, how much that's meant to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
tell them.
I don't know. I mean, well, so
We're trying.
I just did something recently with a show called The Righteous Gemstones, and it's on HBO, and it was a small part for sure, but to me, it was the world. And, I got to meet amazing people, and fucking, dude, be on a fucking comedy that Danny McBride's doing, like, it's like amazing. And, when my episode came out, and I should be, hopefully everything, because you never know how anything works, but I should be in the season finale, which will be October 13th, but you should watch every Sunday on HBO anyway.
There you go.
I remember friends of mine who I haven't talked to in that small town in Heiko would send me Facebook messages, or if they still had my number, would send me texts of my character on the screen or my name at the end of the credit. And dude, it was unbelievable. I mean, there was like one that was like, dude, you never gave up. You know what I
great.
mean? And that's because they remember from The Insanity of Mary Gerard, even though it's not like, I'm not like the star of a summer blockbuster, I'm not the star of a series, but like, even with this thing, you know, dude, getting that was just like, yeah, man,
It's
helped.
a benchmark.
It's something.
It's a proof of that you're doing the right thing. It's not the be all and end all.
It's not the be all and end all.
It's a sign.
It's a sign. But
signpost.
it's a motivator to be like, oh yeah, man. Like I've got people who I knew since I was a kid who are like, yeah, dude, you've always said you wanted to do this. And I had a friend message me who I knew in college. She went and got her master's, works at this great job in a bigger city. And she hit me up recently and she was like, yo, and she was one that tagged me on Facebook and it was very nice. And she was like, yo, I have this dream and I want to talk to you about it because you are pursuing yours and I'm really worried. And I want to know if this is the right decision. And so hers was more in the creating like art pieces and jewelry and different cool things. She was phenomenal at it. She's sending me stuff, which is so nice.
It's still a big decision to commit to something full-time and a business investment.
All this stuff.
Sure,
and so like, dude, when she sent me a long message, but it's like, yo, that hit me, man. Like she was there the first time I tried stand-up. She was there when I had a band and we used to play Tantra Coffee House open mics on Thursdays. You know what I mean? Like she's been there since the first step of me being, wanting to be like, yeah, I love entertainment. And she believed in me then and she believes in me now and she believed in herself and myself so much that she like put herself out there and was like, just what do you think? Like what's advice? Which is so funny because you know, it was just know that it's going to be hard for a while. It's going to get better. If you need a day job, don't think you're not an artist and get one that helps pay the bills but keeps you creatively open. And I was like,
that's pretty good advice. And I've heard multiple people, you know, repeat that advice.
Yeah. And I was, and also was like, and call me if you ever want to talk because it's good to have someone to talk to.
Sure.
You know, and yeah, that hit me hard, man. That was like, dude, I couldn't believe I got a message like that, you know, because it was like, I don't know.
People seeking wisdom from you.
I mean, that's crazy because I smoke a lot of weed. But it's also crazy because we don't give ourselves enough credit where it's like, oh yeah, dude, I'm from Chalk Mountain, Texas, where the 2010 census was 25 people.
We forget how other people see us or we're just not aware.
Yeah, because
which is normal.
Which is good. We're not fucking self-involved.
Obsessed with what other people think of us or
but it's crazy to see that or... you know, just to get those nice messages. So, you know, yeah, man.
I was going to ask, what about Jackson? What did he think when you started doing stand-up, and how did he react to that?
It. Man, he was great, dude. Jackson was all about it. But there was a time at the end of college where I was in a serious, as college can get, relationship, and Jackson was, you know, just getting into his own thing and he stopped boozing a couple years ago, but and it's interesting too of like my brother and Jackson, like, you know, sometimes people just dip out for a bit and then when they dip back in, dude, you know, and they seek the thing they need to do to help themselves and then they become, you know, a little bit of a different person in a great way. Our friendship picked back up, but like when I was getting into everything, that's like when I was like running shows, had these other friends, drifted. Yeah. But I'm so glad that we never stopped having those like close feelings of friendship.
That's awesome. And what about, how did you end up in LA? When did you, was that right after college? And
it was, so I graduated college, and was trying to act more. I got an agent. I was
in LA?
No, I was in Austin, Texas. And I was doing I did a couple of commercials and I did one commercial that didn't get picked up, but it was a national. And I was like a principal player. So I got I remember it was the most I ever saw at the time. I got $4,000 and I was like, holy shit, What?
For
You
acting.
can get, I was just one day Chevy Spark, what? And then, of course, later on you find out, oh, idiot, if that would have gotten picked up and would have ran, you probably could have made like 30 grand. But I took that money. I talked to my parents and was like, hey, I'm going to spend most of this money on a summer program at UCLA, creative producing in their film department. I get an internship from it, and I want to test the waters of if I could live in LA. And would you guys help me with like the next few? And my rent in Austin was like $500 a month,
Yeah.
So I was like, if I put this money towards this, could you guys like help me out with like half the rent for the next 3 months when I come back? And they were like, $250, done. You know what I mean? Because like they're fucking adults, like $250 a month to have their kid. I'm taking all the money I made into this school. And so I was in LA for a summer, met Ryan Talmo, met David Dorwood, who are comics still doing their thing here. And I was like, it got less scary because I was like, oh, it was a great put your toe in the water. And then a year or two, actually, I didn't leave for like another 3 years. I guess that was the same time as I was graduating Texas State. And then, or 2 years after that. And I got in a Linklater film called Everybody Wants Some. And that was a supporting role, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that shot in
Austin, Texas.
Yeah, he shoots everything in Texas.
He shoots a lot in Austin, a lot. And actually my scenes, this is crazy, and I was a year or 2 years after graduating college at Texas State, we shot, dude, within a mile of my college. So I was just like, and dude, it took many years before I, got this. So it's like, it's not like everything just rolls in.
Sure.
But I got that job, was around this fucking legend, and all those actors were so great, and some of them we still stay close, and was like, I got this extra money, and I was like, this is the time. Like I was running a bi-weekly show that would pack out at Lucky Lounge in Austin. I mean, we would pack out, for us was like, dude, sometimes 70 people, but you're talking about a Tuesday night.
Yeah, that's
and so
big.
we're doing.
Yeah, that's big.
We're doing these shows. I'm doing it with Silas Harper Seifel, who is very funny, and he was always super sweet to me. And I was just like, what am I doing, man? This is my chance. I was like, the movie wasn't going to come out for like a year. I think it took a year and a half to come out. So I was like, I've got time, I've got the rep here. I was like, this is it, man. So I, the girlfriend and me, it didn't end because of that. She ended everything. And she ended everything right before I got the role, which I always thought was like, I look back now and it's like, thank God,
It all worked out.
It all worked out. She actually just got married. She's awesome. And she met somebody really great, which is tight because, man, everyone deserves to find happiness, Anyway.
You're a funny guy.
And, but yeah, I was like, this is the time. I was like, because I want to run shows like this, but like, dude, no one from a network's going to walk into this bar on a Tuesday in Austin, and not like I expect that, but like you do see that here.
Right.
And so
you're in the environment.
In the
right
environment,
place, yeah.
I felt like I was getting better at stand up. I was like 4.5 years in, because this was, I moved here 4 years ago. And I was like, eventually this film is going to come out. Like, even it took like a year and a half more, but I was like, it's going to come out. Like, I need to be there. And so I moved here and I took the risk, and it was tough, as it is for everybody. And then, of course, like, the thing came out. I got a bunch of meetings. Nothing happened. Like, but that's okay. The people I'm with now, like, it's unbelievable. So it's like, dude, I had something in the holster, and it was, I remember he wrote me Linklater wrote me a recommendation letter like a month before he got nominated for an Oscar.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I was like,
You still have that?
Oh yeah. It's hanging on my parents' fridge. You know? And as amazing as that was, dude, not everything goes A, B, C, D, E.
No.
So I had all this stuff and it was still super hard. And it's still that struggle, but I wouldn't have changed it for anything else.
Yeah.
You know, and now I'm here and I'm trying to just keep living.
How many minutes of stand-up can you do?
So I'm going to go and do, right now it's supposed to be 4 cities, but it might end up just being 3, but I'm going to do an hour. I mean,
You can do an hour?
100%.
Wow.
You know, I would say,
That's awesome.
I would say a really good 45. I would say a fire half hour. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But a good 45 and probably an okay hour, but definitely enough where people wouldn't, you know, because I think the most we're charging at one show is like fucking $13.
Yeah.
$13 to $15. You know what I mean? But I did an hour in Pittsburgh last November.
Is that the only time you've done an hour?
I've done very few times, but I remember I was supposed to, like, at first I was telling the venue, because we rented this venue out, I was like, yeah, I'm probably just gonna do 40, 45, and I ended up doing an hour and 8, and I was like, oh, cool. And so I've always just been constructing as much as I can, because when I do my show every month, I do about 15 to 16 minutes.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then other shows, we got longer shows in LA, it's usually 10 to 15. And there've been a couple of times where I've done 20. And yeah, man, I mean, you know, I feel like I've got it. So we're going to do these 4 cities. Right now we have 2 of the 4 guaranteed. It's going to be 1 in Pittsburgh and then 1 at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. So my cousin is producing these shows with me.
Gotcha.
So we're putting them on, and you know, he's helping me, you know, try to sell tickets.
It's awesome. What would you say is like your either long-term goals, plans, dreams?
Goals.
If you could have anything you want, is it the HBO special, Netflix special? Do you want do you want an Oscar? Do you want an Oscar for a dramatic role? What do you want?
You know what I want, man? Honestly, I just want to make a decent living off what I love. Like, I don't care if I'm not recognized on the street or anything like that. Like, dude, when I'm on these sets, it's awesome.
You just want to work.
I just want to work. Say it. I love acting. I love stand-up. I love creating show ideas. Like, I love it. And everyone I've met from it, you know, like we were talking earlier, like my friend who's fucking doing a Road to Hulu movie that's being shot right now with like these big actors, or like, you know, just meeting friends from doing these other things. And I mean, you know, seeing growth in people and just being like, yeah, man, it's fucking possible. You just, you know, you have to keep going, but
tell me about it.
I know, right? But yeah, my goal is just to like, dude, just to work, to do comedy. I would love to be able to sell tickets. A special and all that stuff would be cool. But, you know, I'm going to keep doing stand-up and I'm going to keep acting. And I think those 2 things are going to be what keeps me working.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time for sure. Why don't you tell people where they can find you on social media, any upcoming shows?
Upcoming shows.
The floor is yours. Plug whatever you want. Do the whole thing.
Nice. Well, I've already talked about the 2 only cool things I've done.
Bring it up again. Remind us
but
if you want.
I also run a monthly show called A Comedy Show LA. We're having our last show of the year because we've been doing it every month for like 3 years, and I just need to take a couple months off because we're doing the tour in early December, and in November everything's crazy. Anyway, that's going to be October 19th, A Comedy Show LA on Instagram and Facebook. It's at this secret renovated warehouse, and it's super dope, and you should definitely come. It's also going to be on my birthday, so if no one comes, but we usually sell these shows out, which is crazy. This Sunday, which will be October, I guess, 6th, right? Yeah, 5th, 6th. I'll be in the main room of Flappers at 7 p.m. Some hilarious people are on it, like Danny Jollis, Emma Willman. I'm just doing a small spot. And then the 12th, I'm doing some backyard show. That's going to be amazing.
What date is that? What day is that, or date?
October 12th is, and want to make sure I get this right. That's next Saturday, October 12th. That'll be this backyard, I think, in Burbank, but it's by Skewed Orbit. You can find Rachel LaForce or Alex Gatlin. They are producing it. And then freaking watch the Righteous Gemstones every Sunday, and you should see me pop up on October 13th, hopefully. I think so, and then, you can see me trying to breathe every other day in the valley.
And what about social media? How do people find you?
Social media, yeah.
Get you.
Monsour Michael on Instagram, and Michael
Monsour,
like Monsour.
There you go.
Which what's so nice and also interesting about this podcast? This is probably the most serious I've ever been.
Yeah.
But I guess
I wasn't telling you to be serious.
No, but you know what? I hope the stories were good.
Of course, very interesting.
Sorry that I haven't been. The people will be like, I don't know if I want to go see this guy who kind of just touched my heart, but not my funny bone.
No, it's all good.
So Monsour Michael on Instagram, and then Michael Monsour Comedy on Facebook, and I deactivated my Twitter. I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need everything.
There's no point. Nobody knows me. Like, Instagram's fun. I like that. That's
just have fun.
Have fun. Have fun out there. Enjoy life and keep listening, because this is a great podcast.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And again, I appreciate your time. And I'm going to come out and see you do more comedy soon. Looking forward to more work from you.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully, man. We'll see.
Let's do it. Talk soon.
I see, buddy.
Later. So there you have it. My conversation with Michael Monsour. Michael is a funny dude and tells great stories. I felt like I was really there at those barn parties. Those sound fun. But I don't think cleaning up animal poop and living the ranch life will be for me anytime soon, though. Anyway, for everything about this show, of course, head to peoplewelovepodcast.com. And I think that's about, all I got for today. I appreciate you guys listening, of course. Thanks, as always. And let's talk soon. Peace.